Hello everyone, this is Mariam Bibawi on Track Data Science and Business Analytics, submitting Task 3 Exploratory Data Analysis on Retail, where we are required to perform EDA on a given dataset and try to find the weak areas where we can work to make more profit. So, we start by importing our data and printing out its shape. It's 9994 times 13 columns, all right? And we investigate its information to find out if we have null values. And we realize that no, we don't have null values because this number is equal to this number. So we can skip this part altogether. Then we check for duplicates and drop them just in case we have duplicated rows in our data frame. Then we print its shape again and realize we had almost like 17 rows that were duplicated, but it's alright, it's not much data. Then we check for the unique values in each column, and by investigating that, we realize that, for example, the column country only has one value, which is the United States, so it's actually no use for us. We can just drop it. We can also drop the postal code because it has too many unique values for our liking, and we can really use region, state, and city instead of the postal code. It will only give us numerical, it will just mess with our numerical values. So that's what we do. We drop the country and the postal code columns. Then we print out the statistical numbers that we get from our numerical columns, like sales and profit, for example, and that's what we get. For example, upon inspection, we can notice that the mean of the sales is actually very different from the mode. Also, for the profit, it's the same thing. They are very different, which means that there are places with high sales and profit and other places with low sales and profit. We can also check the standard deviation to know how much the data changes across each place, but it doesn't give us any more information than that. Then we move on to checking the correlation between the four categories that we inspected right here. And we don't really get much information because there is no strong or weak, there is no strong positive or negative um, correlation between either of those. So we move on to the next thing. We try to see how each one of them actually relates to each other in terms of graphical data. And this is actually a multivariate plot because we plot two variables together, like for example the sales and the profit right here, in terms of another variable, which is the segment, mapping to the colors. Okay. But from this plot, we realized that no, we can't really distinguish stuff from each other, so we're just gonna have to let it go. We try again, but with another hue, which is the category values, um, but we still can't find a distinguishing factor between them. So we move on to the next thing, which is the count plot based on the categorical data that we obtain from our data frame. For example, the ship mode and region, segment, category, whatever. And upon inspection, we can notice that, for example, the segment category, we have the consumer taking up almost half of the sales, whereas the corporate and home office takes just the other half, both together. And for the regions, we can notice that the East and Central almost have the same amount of sales, whereas the West has the highest and the South has the lowest. Same goes for the ship mode and category. Then we try to see how the sales, discount, and profit actually map to the number of quantities sold. And we try to do this by inspecting the means of each quantity. We inspect the mean because we don't want to be dealing with all of the data in the data frame. So that's what we get. We notice upon inspection that, for example, the sales has the highest values at the quantity number 13, and the profit also has the same thing. It's also highest at 13. So for easier visualization, we can plot this, and for a better way of visualization of the discount variable, we're actually going to multiply it by 100, so it's an actual percentage. So if we multiply this one, it will be 15 instead of 0.15. And then we plot, and we can notice that even though it's not distinguishable, the discount column, but you can still see that it is lowest at 11, at quantity number 11, and the sales and profit are actually highest at number 13, right, as we said, just as we said. And that's what we get from here. Then we move on to plotting according to the region and the categories in our sales. For example, here we can see that the sales are highest at quantity 2 and 3 with respect to the regions right here. Um, yeah. Um, and the quantities from, for example, 11 to 14 or also 10 have the lowest contribution in the number of sales in these regions, in all regions really. We can notice that, as we said in the count plot above, the West region has the highest sales of all time, and and the South region has the lowest. If we move on to here, we can see that the categories with the highest sales are actually the office supplies, where the furniture and technology are not, are take up like half of the office supplies, about half. Um, if we inspect this furthermore, we can see that binders and paper, which are actually office supplies, contribute to the most sales right here, where machines and copiers, which are technology, actually contribute the least to the sales. If we also inspect the regions, the states really instead of the regions right now, we can see that the highest sales come from California, and just followed by New York and Texas. And the lowest contributions come from about like Utah till West Virginia or North Dakota, whatever. This is what we get. So if we're gonna take up something from here, we can say that the weak areas right here are actually this part from Utah to West Virginia, and the weak parts right here in the subcategories are machines and copiers. If we move on, we can actually further inspect the states right here with respect to the sales and profit. And this is what we do here. Uh, we see that the California has the highest sales, just as we said before, followed by New York and Texas. Weak areas are from Utah to North Dakota, and the profit is actually weirdly distributed around here, but it's still okay because it's highest at California and New York. It's actually negative profit, so we're actually losing money at Texas, so this is a very weak area. And then it goes up again in Washington, goes down again from Pennsylvania, and this goes on. And there is almost no contribution from Utah to West Virginia or North Dakota, just as we said, but it's still getting like a little bit of profit if you can see this. And yes, that's it. So these are the weak areas that we need to work on. And in the categories, these are the weak areas, which is the technology department. And that's it. Thank you very much.